Hey everybody, I'm Jack Reed of the Future Pastimes, and I'm the designer of the Ecaz and Mauritania expansion, which is the third expansion for the 2019 edition of the classic Dune board game from Gale Force 9. In this video, I'm going to be talking about part of one of the variants for that expansion, and that is Homeworlds, and we're going to focus in on Planet Ecaz, which is the homeworld for House Ecaz. So, the way this works is you've got the planet token, which is where your reserves go. So you're going to put all of your Ecaz reserves on this planet, which you'll have out in front of your shield near the board, as a reminder that players can use their shipment action to attack another faction's homeworld. And because your reserves are not a secret part of the game plan there, you don't necessarily have to keep them behind your shield. That's public information. There's an accompanying homeworld card for each homeworld, which has a new advantage for as long as you have high threshold, which is a set number of forces, a minimum number of forces in your reserves. And when you dip below that, you're going to flip it over to low threshold, where you will incur, in many cases, a penalty. There's also an advantage for a player faction that occupies your homeworld. So let's get into all of those effects, starting with high threshold. So as long as Ecaz has at least 7 forces on planet Ecaz, and they are considered at high threshold. They're going to start the game with 6 of their forces on Arrakis, but the rest of them will be in their reserves. So as long as they are still at high threshold, they will gain 3 spice from the spice bank each time a poison weapon is discarded. And the reason for that, it's thematic, it's lore-based. Ecaz, a heavily forested world, is also the source of many of the Imperium's poisons. So when a poison gets used, that means another order for poison has come in, and that's why they're getting that income. Furthermore, if Ecaz is in an alliance, their alliance can win the game by co-occupying at least one stronghold on Arrakis and then occupying 2 other factions' homeworlds. So if Ecaz is in an alliance and they have forces on another homeworld, say Gidi Prime, and Ecaz's ally is occupying another homeworld other than their own, then they can win. And it doesn't specify that the 2 factions need to be involved. So Ecaz themselves could be occupying the other 2 homeworlds, or their ally can. So this is real incentive for them to spread out and try to control other players' homeworlds, in addition to whatever strongholds they're on Arrakis. And that can be important in a game where players are routinely stronghold blocking to prevent an alliance from being able to win the game. Now, Ecaz faction, of course, has the advantage of occupy. Their occupy advantage lets them be in the same stronghold as their ally, which makes it, you can't block that from happening. As long as one of those 2 factions is in a stronghold, the other faction can still ship in, even if there are already 2 factions there. So, well, as long as one of them is Ecaz or their ally. So it's hard to block the alliance from getting into strongholds that they're already in. They can certainly still do that. But even with that in the game, it is still possible for the other 4 factions in a 6-player game to block the strongholds. But you can't block homeworlds unless you're already attacking them. So this opens up possibilities for them. Now, to be clear, Ecaz and their ally cannot co-occupy another planet. So those only work on strongholds or territories on Arrakis. That's when that occupy advantage kicks in. So still, even with that limitation of them not being able to co-occupy planets, they can still get into a lot of other places that normally factions wouldn't be able to do in order to win, because occupying someone else's homeworld doesn't necessarily lead to the win, not directly, indirectly possibly. So that's what happens at high threshold. Now, if Ecaz dips down to 6 or fewer forces, then they'll be at low threshold. They will lose these 2 abilities here, their poison income and then being able to win the game in an unconventional way. And they will incur this penalty, and that is when you, Ecaz, and your ally are both in a battle with another faction, your opponent chooses which one of you fights the battle. So again, getting back to that occupy advantage, if Ecaz and their ally are in a battle, normally what happens is they decide which one of them is going to fight the battle in terms of who's going to play treachery cards, who's going to use a leader. Now, irrespective of who is fighting the battle, Ecaz's forces are never dialed. It's always the allies' forces that are dialed. And then half of Ecaz's forces are going to contribute to your battle strength there. And then if you win, half of them will still be there on the planet. We have the rest going to the tanks. So it's a significant battle advantage. Being able to occupy a stronghold or any territory with your ally is a big boost for Ecaz. So, but not being able to choose which one of you is fighting the battle is certainly going to be a handicap in most cases. So that is the penalty you incur when you're at low threshold. Finally, if someone does attack planet Ecaz and they win the battle and have forces there, they become the occupier. And once you are the occupier of another faction's homeworld, you will always be considered the occupier until they get you off of that planet completely. So even though they're going to have forces coming in from the tanks during revival, if they don't ship them out, you're going to be in a battle, but you're still considered the occupier, and that's going to matter for certain things. So the advantage you get for occupying Ecaz is that you or your ally gained control of Duke Vidal, and you may revive him from the tanks, overriding both the Ecaz and Moritani Duke Vidal advantage. So Duke Vidal, he's a 6-strength leader with no traitor card. That both Ecaz and Moritani have ways of getting him. For Ecaz, it's the Ecaz Ambassador token, which if they trigger it, they gain Duke Vidal until he is used in a battle. Moritani, they just need to be in 2 stronghold battles, not counting any with House Ecaz, and then they take control of Duke Vidal, even if Ecaz already had him. Yes, occupying planet Ecaz means that you're in cahoots with Duke Vidal and he will do your bidding. You will also be getting a 2 spice income in the spice collection phase, both in basic and in advanced. So there are plenty of incentives to occupy this particular planet, but just about any planet in the game. So this is true of all of the homeworlds. There's always going to be a home field advantage, a number that is added to the dial. So whether Ecaz is at high or low threshold, they're going to be adding 2. And if they're in a laser gun shield explosion on planet Ecaz, Ecaz is only going to suffer the loss of 2 of their undialed forces in that particular battle. And as a reminder, any battle on planet Ecaz, only Ecaz can call traitor. So an invading faction cannot call traitor. And if the Tleilaxu are in the game, they cannot call face dancer in that battle either. So there are certain perks for the home team in any battle on the homeworld there. But nevertheless, it can be very advantageous to take over someone else's homeworld. So that's what happens on planet Ecaz. Let me know if you have any questions about these advantages or the effects of homeworlds in general. And if you have had a chance to play with homeworlds and had planet Ecaz in the game, let me know how that was. What were your thoughts? Was it strong? Was it negligible in terms of its effect? What did you like? What was still wanting? And any interesting stories thereof. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.